So today I'm going to be talking about motion sickness in VR. Now I've recorded this whole video, or at least half the video, in 23 minutes of me talking. I didn't have my mic on, so you know that's that. So now that I've done my draft, maybe we can get through it a little faster. I mean, it may still be 20 minutes because it was going to be longer than that, but I'm going to edit it down. We'll see. Whatever. Let's just get to it. So what we're going to talk about today. Will you get motion sick? What are your VR legs and games that you should play? And one forbidden game that I deem forbidden that you should only play if you ever want to ascend to something higher than a god when you're playing VR. I made this video specifically because someone on my Facebook page expressed that they had motion sickness when they played a Quest 2 before. I had motion sickness when I first started playing VR, but when I bought my VR headset, I wasn't even thinking about motion sickness. I had no idea to even think about motion sickness. I just bought the VR headset because I was like, I want to play these games. They look cool, and they look way cooler in the headset than they do on the screen. Don't ever look up motion sickness on Google. It doesn't help. It just will scare you more. Understand what motion sickness is. It's just your brain not understanding your eyeballs. And also frame rate can play a huge factor in, you know, whether you get motion sickness and stuff or not, because if you have a low frame rate, I don't even think that like turning your head usually doesn't give you motion sickness because you're turning your head in VR, so your point of view is changing along with how your head is moving, so you don't get the motion sickness. But if your frame rate is really low and like you're at like a 30 FPS frame rate in VR, I think you might actually get motion sick because of like it's just too laggy, and like so your head is doing one thing, like your head is smoothly moving, but then like the image is not keeping up with how you're moving your head, and it could like the image can be moving behind what you're doing, or you could turn your head back the other way, and then as you turn your head it's still going this way a little bit, and like it messes with your eyes. Make sure you have a good frame rate. So like Oculus Quest 2 can go up to 120 FPS. It didn't do that when it first came out. I think it was like 90, might have even been less than that. I think like the base frame rate is like 72 or some weird number like that, but it's like 72 and then like 90 and then like 120, but the higher the better. If you can hit the high numbers, but you want at least that base like 70 something number. Quest 2 standalone hits that regardless because they want to make sure their stuff hits that to make you not have a bad experience. It's like a console. But when you plug it into your computer, if your computer can't handle the high frame rates, make sure you turn stuff down so that you can hit the proper frame rates. 72 is fine, 90 is fine. That's probably what you'll usually get. I think most of the games are made to be able to hit these frame rates consistently, and that's why you see a lot of low res stuff. Stuff is usually not super high resolution in VR, at least not right now. Like you're not going to get PS5 console quality graphics in VR. At least I don't know. I've never played PlayStation VR, but I would assume that they would have that on Steam, right? You'd be able to play that on PC. My computer should be able to handle that, but they don't have that. So they make games so that they can hit these frame rates. And to be honest, Robo Recall is one of the best looking VR games I know. It looks pretty high res in the goggles. If you look at like your hands and stuff, I think they just put high res on the stuff that matters, the stuff that you see the most and that you're closest to, or something like that. I don't know. So getting your VR legs, you'll hear a lot of people say you need to get your VR legs, or train your VR legs. How you do that is you have to just play more VR. The way you set yourself up for success to be able to play more VR if you're getting motion sick is to not use things that will make you motion sick in VR. So snap turn is something that you should use. I use snap turn 30 degrees because most of the time you can just snap turn to 30 degrees and then turn your head the rest of the way so you can see stuff. 15 degrees is too small of a turning radius for me. 15 degrees is you can turn your head that much. Like you can look you have a 180-degree view if you just turn your head, right? Like probably a little bit more because peripheral vision, but you have at least 180 degrees if you turn your head left to right, right? So you want to just be able to get, 30 more degrees. So if you do 180 and you turn your head and you click 30, you'll be able to turn your head and see something that you wouldn't have been able to see to the left or to the right. 15 degrees I don't feel like is enough. 15 degrees is like, I still gotta hit it again, so that's why 30, I guess. 45 degrees is like you're turning yourself from looking forward to looking to your side and then to looking behind you. But it's like you can turn your head. Now, unless you were, like if you had a neck brace on and you couldn't turn your head, 45 degrees is probably what you will want to do. So that way you can turn your whole body quickly without, having to, turn your neck. But since you have your neck, I think 30 is a good sweet spot. Never use smooth turn, ever. Never use smooth turn. I don't ever use smooth turn. Even now, if I turn on smooth turn and try to smooth turn, I hate it. I hate it. It's the most terrible feeling. It feels worse than playing Dash Dash World, and we'll get to that. Air feedback was mentioned. Haptic feedback for movement in VR. Now, when he said haptic feedback, the first thing I thought of was like, the B haptics vest and like the gun, the B haptics, or the Pro Tube VR haptic feedback guns that allow you to feel like you're holding a gun, you fire, and it gives you kickback. But he was saying that things that will help your motion sickness are like blowing a fan at yourself, like turning a fan on high, blowing it at yourself while you're in VR. I don't, that didn't really help me all that much. I don't think I did used to do that. It's usually just for keeping your orientation correct. So like when you want to know whether you're forward or which way you're facing, if you turn this way and your fan is over here, if your fan is in front of you and you turn this way, you'll know that you're facing this way because your fan is blowing on you from this direction. So you can turn back toward the fan and feel the air on you, on your face. And if you turn this way, you'll feel the air on this side, and you know that you're where you're facing. That is what I think the most people use that for, to keep their orientation straight. I usually put my arms out and trigger my guardian wall to come up so that I can see where I am looking at my guardian wall. And because I know how I drew it on the floor, so I know which way I'm facing. Sometimes if you have like a giant square, you can put an arrow on the front of it, and that way you know that arrow is where forward is for you. Or like if you're streaming and stuff. If you're not streaming, you don't really necessarily need to know where forward is, I guess. But like I always want to be facing the camera, like, or my back, because I have like a cool thing on my hoodie or something like that. I don't know. So now we're going to talk about games. I have about 4 games per category, which is comfortable games, moderate games, intense games, and then we have the forbidden game, which I wouldn't recommend it to anyone unless you're crazy like me and want to try to push your not having motion sickness to the next level. First, comfortable games: Beat Saber, Propagation, Super Hot, and Gun Club VR. The theme throughout these games is you don't really move your character in VR at all. Generally, you're standing in one spot playing this game. You don't have to use smooth locomotion. You don't have to use teleporting. You don't really have to use snap. You don't really have to use smooth turn in any of them. I think Propagation you might, but I usually have mine set to snap turn. And if you're playing in your headset, or if you're playing on like Airlink, because I think some of these games are PC only, and if you're playing on like Airlink or something, you can just turn around without having to smooth turn or snap turn at all. So you're standing in one spot and you're playing the game. That's what makes the games comfortable. Either sit in one spot or stand in one spot, and you don't have to use any of the things that would cause motion sickness. Beat Saber, you're standing in one spot, you're slicing blocks. The only time you're really moving is when you lean to one side or the other side, when you need to, get out of the way of the barrier thing in the game. Propagation, scariest fuck. Scariest game I've ever played in VR so far. I finished the what was it, 5 levels? I think I got past probably maybe 2 of the sections. I got to the 3rd section and stopped playing and then me and my friend played it. There's a video up on my channel if you want to watch it, and it's us screaming our heads off playing this game because it's scary as hell, and I would have never finished it if I didn't play it with a friend. Super Hot VR is a thing where you're standing here, and the only way for you to get things to move around is when you're moving. So when you're moving, action is happening. If you're not moving, nothing's happening. You don't have to walk. You don't walk with the joystick. At least I don't think you walk with the joystick. I never actually tried it. I'm gonna feel like an idiot. I'm gonna try that after I make this video, actually. But generally what I would do is I stood in one spot, and then I would just move my hands to get things to move, right? I don't know why I never tried to move the joystick. I might be dumb. Gun Club VR is you stand in one spot. It's kind of set up like a mobile game where you just pick your challenges off of this map. You click on, you know, the gun shop, and it'll teleport you over to the gun shop on the other side of the room, and you can buy your guns. You can try out your guns there, and then you can take them into you know, the challenges. You can customize your guns. You're standing in one spot. It's like Gun Range, the game, pretty much. You just go for high scores and stuff. Those are all comfortable games to play in VR if you're just starting out in VR. There are plenty more, but I just picked 4 that I have and that I've had experience with. Moderate games, Robo Recall, which is the game you're watching right now. It says that this is a comfortable game, but I call it a moderate game specifically because of the fact you're standing on top of, like, you know, you can stand on top of this. So if you teleport up here in VR, it looks like you're standing on top of this, and it's kind of triggers your height anxiety if you have any. Like if you're not scared of heights, or if heights don't bother you, or standing on the edge of something that's really high up and you're not worried about it, like that's not going to bother you. But if you're normally somebody who is like worried about heights, it's going to trigger that. It triggered that for me, but it doesn't trigger that for me in VR anymore, because I'm used to doing random stupid stuff like playing the Spider-Man game as the first game that I ever played on or not first game that I ever played, but one of the first things I ever did on the Quest 2 was play the Spider-Man Far From Home web swinging thing where they make you jump off a building and web swing. Body freezes up. Body froze up the first time I did that. Body froze up a couple of other times with involving giant spiders in VR recently, one of them, but that had nothing to do with motion sickness. Hyperdash is a moderate game. It's a very fast-paced shooter, but you can use slide, but you have teleporting as like one of your main movement things, where you have 3 teleports, and then they replenish. They have like a cooldown, like a short cooldown, and you can use like your smooth locomotion to like move around and stuff like that. And then you can teleport, so you can teleport more often, or that's one of the games where it's a hybrid, where you can teleport or you can smooth locomotion, or you can do both. In this game, you want to get proficient at doing both, because that's what will make you more proficient at the game if you can do both. But like another way they have you moving around the map without having to actually walk is to grind on stuff. So if you teleport onto a grind rail, it'll have you sliding, but like it makes sense to your brain, because when you're grinding on something, you're not actually walking, you're grinding on a rail like you would with a skateboard. And that didn't make me motion sick, because I was standing still. I guess I expected to be standing still. Then we have Pistol Whip. Pistol Whip, moderate game. I think they said it's a comfortable game. I say it's a moderate game because the entire time you're playing the game, your character is sliding forward. Now, I guess you could use the same like logic that like you're grinding on a rail, but the floor is flat. This is the way my brain works in VR. But the floor is flat. I'm not grinding on anything, so I'm sliding along the floor, and you're shooting stuff. It's kind of like Time Crisis, except you're sliding the entire time. Instead of like in Beat Saber where the blocks come to you, or in like Guitar Hero where the notes come to you, you are sliding along the play area and you're shooting the notes, which are the enemies or whatever, and that could possibly cause motion sickness. I don't remember if it did for me or not. I think I was a little deep into playing VR by the time I played this game, but it's one of my favorite games. Until You Fall. Until You Fall, that game has sliding. It's very similar to how Hyper Dash is, because you can slide along the floor and you can teleport. So like, but you're teleporting. When you teleport, you only teleport to enemies. So you teleport to an enemy and you slam into them. And then when you're walking, you're walking very slow. So like, it's not really like the best way to move. You want to walk into range, teleport up to an enemy, and then you're in combat with that enemy, and you're just pretty much, you block all their slashes and slash at them and try to stun them. And then once you stun them, you slash along the correct, angles to do the damage to them. Intense games: Boneworks, Stormland, Population 1, and Spider-Man Far From Home. Those are intense game experiences. Boneworks, the only thing I can think of them calling this an intense gaming or an intense VR experience. So if you climb up something and you fall off of something, it feels like you're falling. Just like the Spider-Man thing where they want you to jump off the building and swing. If that's the first thing you've ever done in VR, it's gonna feel terrible. It's gonna feel like you're actually jumping off a building. So like, if that's the first thing you ever do, play Boneworks, and you have to climb something and you fall off because your hand slips or you didn't grab the grip button correctly, then yeah, it's gonna suck, because you're, number one, you're not gonna be expecting it, and it might freak you out and you might like fall over or something like that. So like, that's why that's in intense games. Stormland, they have this section, they said that Stormland is moderate, I think. But I think it's probably intense, because they have this thing where you slide around on this, like, you go to the edge of the water and you can like slide around and you're moving really fast. But like, you're doing this and you're sliding around and you're moving really quick. And I'm just like, that is almost like the Forbidden game. Population 1 is also an intense game. I feel like, I think they have Population 1 marked as moderate, but to me, it's an intense game, because there are, especially with the new map, there you climb up buildings, like, well, you climb up all the buildings, but climb up anything. But you start out the match on this high thing and you have to jump off of it, and then you can, spread your arms and you glide. So like, you jump off of this thing and it feels like you're falling because you're not used to it, and then you can glide. You're gliding, and then eventually you gotta drop. You gotta get down. So you gotta let yourself drop close to the ground and then glide. So like, that is also something that could be, intense. That's the intense portion of it. Climbing high buildings, jumping off, gliding, all that kind of stuff. Intense. That's an intense like thing you do in VR. To avoid motion sickness at first, comfortable games. Look at comfortable games. Play those. Moderate games where you can use smooth locomotion or teleport, and then use smooth locomotion often. You want to use smooth locomotion enough to get used to it, because I think that is the thing that will add a better experience in VR for everyone. Smooth turn doesn't add anything to the experience, because you can actually turn your head. You can just turn your body to turn around. That's your smooth turn. But if you're playing in a small space, you can't walk around in your space and walk around the entire map. You want to be able to walk around the map. You don't want to have to teleport all the time. And if you have to teleport all the time, it kind of breaks the immersion. It breaks the experience for me. And it might break the experience for other people, but I'm telling you, if you're used to doing teleport for everything and you get used to smooth locomotion and you can do it without feeling motion sick, it's so much better when you can do both without feeling motion sick. Just better. Spider-Man Far From Home, that's one of the intense things. That's the thing I've been talking about, where you walk to the edge of the building and you jump off, and then you web swing. Very intense experience. The game doesn't even look that great. Like, the experience, the little thing that they made, doesn't even look that crazy. Like, the graphics are not even that good, but jumping off of that thing and like the buildings and how far you fall and how fast you fall, and then how you swing through it, it's a cool experience. Definitely should try it at least once, but not the first thing you do in VR. The last thing, the forbidden game, is Dash Dash World. Dash Dash World is like Mario Kart. This game will give you motion sickness I feel like no matter how strong your VR legs get, and I play this game sitting down in a chair. Like, you sit down in a chair because you feel like, okay, well, I'm not gonna get motion sick if I sit down, right? So you sit down in a chair. Also, you can play pistol whip sitting down in a chair. You can play pistol whip sitting down in a chair, and it's still fun. And so, like, that's probably will move it from moderate to comfortable if you sit down and play that game. Might make it a little hard for some of the parts where you have to like dodge pillars, but anyway, Dash World. That game, it's the most intense game you ever played. If you think about playing any Mario track, but you're sitting in the car and you have to steer, with your hands. So you're gripping the steering wheel with your controllers, and then to use items, you can't just press buttons to use items. The items pop up on the right above where your rear view mirrors would be, and you have to grab the item and throw it. Right, so like you're driving, you're going fast, and you have to turn your head, look over here, grab the item, throw it at somebody, power slide around a corner, and then like you're going, you hit a boost pad, you jump off of something, you're in the air, you're falling, you power slide and get like, it is insane how that game makes you feel like trash. But I'm sure but it's a fun game, and I'm sure if I could get used to playing it, it would be really cool. But it's hard. It's hard. That is the only game that really gives me insane motion sickness. So I'm saying that is the forbidden game. Don't buy that game until you've been playing VR for a long time, and if you really want to try to push your motion sickness immunity to the next level. Then you play Dash World once a week. one race once a week. But that's pretty much it. That's all my experiences. If you have any other questions, just hit me up in the comments. Use the comments underneath my video. That will help the video. If you watch through the whole video, I thank you, because I need the watch time. Hit the like if it helped you. Hit the dislike if you didn't like what I was saying, I guess. And subscribe, and I just post all types of videos here, anything that I think is relevant in gaming and stuff like that, me talking about stuff and gameplay and whatnot. So yeah, help out the EyeonFGC YouTube channel. Thanks. Peace.